Okay, let's start another new file. So go up to your File menu, pick the option for New. Again, you don't need to save any of the files we're working on so far. In this file, press R for the rectangle tool. Remember, it's a two-click tool, so hover up near the top left corner of your drawing window and click once. Move the mouse down towards the bottom right and click a second time to draw your rectangle. Now don't click in the measurements box, but you'll notice here now that it says dimensions. And there's some number of feet and inches, a comma, and then another set of feet and inches. So you have two dimensions when you're dealing with a rectangle. Now, just like the polygon and circle tools, after you draw the rectangle, you have the option to edit those dimensions. You don't need to click in the measurements box, just go over to your keyboard and type 150 and the foot mark for feet, comma, 100 and the foot mark for feet, and then press the return key or the enter key on your keyboard. And now you've got a 150 foot by 100 foot rectangle. Now try this instead. Type 150, but don't type the foot mark. Then press comma and type 100, but don't type the foot mark, and hit the enter or the return key on your keyboard. It's a really small rectangle. What happened there? Well, it turns out that we selected an inches template. So SketchUp assumes that any number that you type in when you're typing in dimensions is in inches unless you specify something else. So in this case, it thinks it's 150 inches by 100 inches. So just be aware of that when you're typing things in. If the dimensions appear smaller than you thought they would be, double check that you're actually adding the foot mark if you needed it. Okay, let's type in something a little bit more complicated. Try this. Type 175, then the foot mark, 6, space, 1/2. That slash key is the same as the question mark key. Then comma, and then just to make it simple, the exact same thing again. 175, foot mark, 6, space, 1/2, and press enter. So that's 175 feet, 6.5 inches by 175 feet, 6.5 inches. So everything to the left of the foot mark, SketchUp interprets as feet. Then everything to the right is inches. You have to have a space before you use a fraction. So this is the syntax that we're going to use whenever we're typing in feet and inches. You can also use decimal points. So while you might not do that as frequently when you're using feet and inches, if you know something should be 10.5 feet, you can just type 10.5 and the foot mark, comma, 10.5 and the foot mark and hit enter. And now that's 10.5 feet by 10.5 feet. You can mix and match too. So you could type 100.5 feet, comma, 150 feet, 6, space, 1/2, and hit enter. So what you have here is 100.5 feet, which is 100 feet 6 inches. So because the 0.5 comes before the foot, it is interpreted as 0.5 feet or 6 inches here. Whereas on the other side, we have 150 feet 6.5 inches. So it matters how you mix and match these things. What happens before the foot mark is interpreted as feet. After the foot mark is inches. Then you have a comma. And just remembering that your fractions are separated with a space. Now, even though we're in a feet and inches template, we can enter metric units right here. So let's try this. Type 25 m for meters, comma, 50 m for meters, and hit enter. Now we have a 25 meter by 50 meter rectangle. Just know that when you enter metric units, SketchUp is actually making a calculation on the fly that's changing it to feet and inches. So if you want to use metric units, and that's the output you're going for, we'll eventually talk about changing your template to metric units. But if you work in feet and inches, and then work with a manufacturer that gives you some sort of metric units, you can just input them on the fly. You can also use centimeters or millimeters. So let's try this. Type 3000 cm, comma, 4000 cm for centimeters and hit enter. That's a 3,000 centimeter by 4,000 centimeter rectangle. And millimeters, of course, you would type something like 50,000 mm, comma, 10,000 mm, enter. And you're going to get 50,000 millimeters by 10,000 millimeters. So you can enter metric units using m, cm, and mm, and you can even mix and match metric with feet and inches. So not that you would do this, but just to make sure it makes sense, try typing 25m, comma, 100 and the foot mark and hit enter. And it'll still work, 25 meters by 100 feet. But to set us up for our next lesson, let's make one more modification to the dimensions. So go ahead and type 200 feet, comma, 150 feet, and hit enter.